Okay, I'm gonna try this again. I hit stop instead of pause, and then I had an issue with my own child. So here we go. Let's try it again. So the second poem is called Fifth Grade Autobiography. And so you can see here by Rita Dove, you can see it's 22 lines long. So it's similar in length to Eating Alone. You can see that it's broken up into 4 stanzas. And you can see the stanza 1 is 6 lines long. And stanza 2 is 10. And then stanza 3 is 5. And the last stanza is 1. So you can see it's not even. The stanzas are not even. There's no pattern. And you can see there is no rhyme scheme because the ends of the lines, fishing, Michigan, ivy, cap. So you can tell it's free verse poetry. And I like how 7th graders in particular, you're not so much complaining about the fact that things don't rhyme, because rhyming is not a sign of a good poem. There's other things that are a part of that. It's just one of the things you're to look at. So the picture I chose for this form is rather important. So you can see up there, it looks like a furry head. So in this poem, I know that this takes place like in the 50s because there's a brother and he wears a Davy Crockett cap. And a Davy Crockett cap is made of raccoon. I don't know how you feel about raccoons. So it's the cap, and then the tail of the raccoon comes down. It was popularized by Davy Crockett, hero of the Alamo and the Midwest. And so he wears that cap, and they were really, really, really popular, worn with a sailor suit. So the sailor suit would be like a top that's white that has the big collar and a tie, and usually with short pants. And young kids in the 50s would wear those. Young boys would wear those. So I know that it takes place old-fashioned. And also, if I think about it, when I look at it like 5th grade autobiography, you know the root auto means self and bio means life. So when you write about yourself, you're writing an autobiography. So something about 5th grade and autobiography, so it kind of feels like a school project-ish, just looking at it before I get reading into it. And so let's just jump into it. I do like this poem. It's similar to the Eating Alone poem in that there is loss, but it's not as sad feeling. Like the Eating Alone, it just has such a sad feeling to it. I think it's a loneliness. And this is, picture in your mind, you're going through pictures, photographs. If your parents or your family ever printed photographs instead of just looking at them digitally. So digging through boxes of photos, and you see a photo and you have it brings back a lot of memories to you. So this one reminds me a lot of my childhood. So here we go, let's read. 5th grade autobiography by Rita Dove. I was 4 in this photograph, fishing with my grandparents at a lake in Michigan. My brother squats in poison ivy. His Davy Crocker cap sits squared on his head, so the raccoon tail flounces down the back of his sailor suit. My grandfather sits to the far right in a folding chair, and I know his left hand is on the tobacco in his pants pocket because I used to wrap it for him every Christmas. Grandmother's hips bulge from the brush. She's leaning into the ice chest, sun through the trees, printing her dress with soft, luminous paws. I'm staring jealously at my brother. The day before he rode his first horse alone, I was strapped in a basket behind my grandfather. He smelled of lemons. He's died, but I remember his hands. So it's taking the idea of a memory and actually sharing that memory through a poem, a free verse poem. So I can tell that this picture was looked at when the speaker was in the 5th grade. So the 5th grader is speaking as if they are a 5th grader. In 5th grader, you are 9 turning 10. So just about that time in your life. And in the picture, the speaker is 4, so much younger. And I don't know, male or female. The female is a poet, but she can write a speaker that's a male. So we know that in this picture, it's grandparents and then the brother and the speaker. And we know that they're fishing at a lake in Michigan. It doesn't matter which lake, they're just fishing. And we know the brother is squatting in poison ivy. If you've ever been around poison ivy, that's never a good idea. And kind of the way the brother looks with that Davy Crockett cap and the tails going down the back. And you could see the grandfather sitting in a folding chair, so like a folding lawn chair. And he's far to the right in the photograph. And his hands is on his pants pocket. And the speaker remembers that in that pocket is always the tobacco. And I used to wrap the tobacco. Kind of an unusual Christmas present to give, but maybe the family gave the grandfather this loose tobacco that the grandfather rolled to smoke. So just a memory of that tradition as well. And then the grandmother's hips, she's from the brush, and she's leaning into the ice chest. So something is going on where she's leaning into the ice chest, maybe lunch, getting out lunches, sodas, something. And then there's some nice imagery there where you have the sun coming through the trees, and the trees leave a pattern on her dress. And then in the picture, the speaker is looking at the brother who's squatting in the poison ivy, and that speaker looks jealous. And the speaker remembers why. Because the day before, with the grandparents, got to go horseback riding, and the brother got to ride the horse by himself, and the speaker was behind Granddad, and then remembers he smelled of lemons, and then says, back to the present, he's died, but I remember his hands. So it's just a beautiful ode to the grandfather, to that memory, to the honesty of it. So let's make sure I talked about all the questions here. So I did the lines, I did the stanzas, I told you why we know the speaker's for. We can tell exactly who's in the photograph, so don't be tricked. We can tell why the speaker's jealous. We can talk about that scent. I think the theme, you can pick it out pretty easily from those choices, because 2 are completely hilarious. And there's a lot of imagery. Remember, imagery is sight, smell, touch, taste, sound. So you'll have to roll up to see. So I want you to click on all the lines that show imagery. So if it describes something you could see, something you could smell, something you could touch or taste or hear, I want you to click those boxes. I want you to tell me if there's a rhyme scheme. That should be very, very easy at this point. I want you to tell me what kind of poem, and then I want you to evaluate it. Okay, so enjoy those 2 poems. Oh, and make sure you're always leaving comments.